Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Florence Dombricourt. I help leaders and teams building capacity for the future that they can shape that future. And I'm delighted to welcome you in this last bonus episode of our first season of Self-Leadership Habits for Leaders. Now, self-leadership is about building capacity for the future. It's about being intentional about what we do, our behavior, so that we can influence what is happening around us in our system. And as leader, we know self-leadership gives us tools to be intentional in our leadership. Today, we're going to have fun. We're going to explore what could be the essential self-leadership skills for 2025. And definitely there is more than one. And we're probably not going to cover all of them with this session today, but we definitely will come back to that next year in 2025. As usual, feel free to ask questions or comments into the comment section. We love your participation in our conversations. My guest today is Carola Moon. A married mum with 2 kids, a dog, and some colorful challenges of her own, Carola presents herself as the woman's clarity coach. She helps people getting unstuck, giving them tools to build up their next step out of overwhelm, overthinking, and stuck into calm and happiness. I have to say, I'm a bit of a fan of Carola's invitation to ditch overthinking, people-pleasing, and self-doubt. Definitely a fan of this one. Now, with Carola, we manage a LinkedIn group, Effective Self-Leadership, where we regularly publish tips, advice, reflection, conversations. And we will be posting the link in the comment of that group later for you if you want to join it. Funny enough, self-leadership as a subject has put us together, Carola and I. And I love the difference and complementarity on our approach, how we use or build up self-leadership or what we actually advocate. Now, good morning, Carola, and welcome with us today.
Hello.
Before we get started on this essential self-leadership skill for 2025, can you share what brought you to self-leadership coaching?
So like you said, I've got some colorful challenges of my own. And after having tried for far too many years to try to control my environment and control the other people in my life, and realizing that had little effect, or often actually even the negative effects to the ones I wanted, I've realized what all the great thinkers know and share is that you need to start with yourself, and the one thing you can control is how you react to the environment and to other people. And for me, that is really where self-leadership is coming in, is how can you be the person who deals with the things that you encounter.
There is something I love in what you say there, Carola, is this notion, we are, the only thing we can really manage is what is happening, and kind of highlight that we know we are an element in a system. That system is like professional, personal, and everything else together. And there is in physics this law that the element which is the most flexible in the system is actually the element that is going to control where the system is going to head. And I love it because for me, see self-leadership as giving me the possibility to be that most flexible element, that I can influence my system to go where I like it to go, that I can be happy, calm, and having a satisfaction in my life. So there is something quite nice. So essential self-leadership skill for 2025. A lot of things to come up here. From where could we start?
Yeah, it's a big topic. And if anyone else who's watching and listening is anything like me, like I feel the pressure of like how the world seems so polarized right now, and how it seems we have big challenges on our hands, like, economical challenges, environmental challenges, etc. So all of these things, I feel quite like a pressure. And since I can't, there isn't a button to press or a switch to make this all better, to fix it all. Again, for me, it's like, okay, so how do I need to manage myself, lead myself, so that I don't not only stay calm, but maybe also that I can create a change in the world.
Okay, so one of the keys coming up, I say, would be handling that pressure, handling that polarity. I agree with you. I see so much polarity, and it gets me really a bit of frustration sometimes. So I would have to handle my frustration. So emotional intelligence would definitely come at one of the strong self-leadership essential for 2025.
Yes,
but I would say this one is for every times. Yeah, it can be frustrating because for me the world is not black and white. It's like a lot of colors. It's a mix of color. It's definitely not black and white. It doesn't have these polarity things. But everything in so many things in what we read or listen to is inviting to this polarity. And I have to kind of find a mechanism to keep my head clear that we don't go in polarity. And all polarity is simplifications. It's like taking a shortcut. It's not really looking at the system and what is happening. So I know that's not going to give me the answer I need or the tool I need. So there's a it's how can we also use our thinking that to stay aware of that polarity and aware of the shortcuts.
Yes, and what you just said also brought to me is quite a lot of the news that we are reading are often fear-inducing. And I was just reminded, I was listening to an audiobook about how fear is only ever for something that hasn't happened yet. Because once it has happened, we would be feeling maybe sadness or anger or frustration or those things. But fear we only feel for something that hasn't happened. So by having that clarity and that almost like reminding ourselves that like feeling the fear is actually for something that isn't here yet. While on the flip side is, okay, so what do we feel about what is currently happening?
So we go back somewhere to this emotional intelligence and managing emotions. I like the fear. It's true that fear usually for something that has not happened, it's a mechanism. For me, I see fear as every emotion for me as a message. That's how I will actually invite people to listen to their emotion, to understand the message and what that emotion is inviting them to move towards. And then they can identify if the behavior is the right one for that message or not.
Yes.
So there will be about listening, what is the fear inviting you to before acting, stepping back and identifying, is that really the behavior you actually need to reach where you want to be, that calm, that confidence, that clarity you may want to manage or to maintain. So it's funny because stepping back was actually one of the habits we looked at the first episode of this season, because it's something that I found extremely powerful as maybe it's as much a habit as a mindset. If it's mindset of stepping back is a mindset to pause before acting. And it's true that in parallel of this invitation to identify, to take shortcuts in thinking polarity, I see also a permanent invitation to act and act and act and act, like a bit of fanatic action. And yes, action for me is key, is very important, but there is a difference between acting immediately and taking the time to identify if that action is actually going to be strategic or taking the right action. So it becomes a bit something here, maybe, but that also an invitation to get a step back before moving into actions.
I love that. Yes, that is so important, because if we act out of like knee-jerk reaction to a circumstance, then we haven't engaged our wise brain, our brain,
Yeah.
to look at, okay, what are the possible consequences of this action? Where am I heading with this? So, for example, if you are in a business situation and you're being like someone hasn't given you the tasks that you've given them, they have not delivered on something,
Mm.
to then almost like, oh, that's not good, is probably not going to make that task be done any faster. But to pause and like then go back to that person to say, actually, when can it be done by? Then you're
Yeah.
not burning any bridges. And I know this is like a tiny example, but we have so many knee-jerk reactions that we often aren't even aware of, and many of them may not be giving us the results that we actually want.
I like that knee-jerk reaction kind of way to express it, this automatic, which is actually knee-jerk reaction. And we know that's how our brain is working, because it's built up an idea of a database of possible reaction depending on what is happening, and the situation is here, and it's going to predict, use that, it's going to be the best for you. However, it may have been the best like 5 years ago, but it may no longer be the best, and so on. So taking that moment to kind of derail this knee-jerk reactions, and being able to just like go somewhere else is actually extremely powerful. I often associate that with this. For me, it's a bit. If I leave that knee-jerk reaction all the time, then I know I have possibility to maintain what I call vicious circle in my reactions.
Yes.
And I like this undoing it, and we derail this knee-jerk reaction, and then we can start asking, how can I create a virtuous circle in my reactions?
Yes.
And I
Yes.
change the dynamic.
Yeah.
So, which for me, we bring something essential for me. It's not only for 2025. I think it would probably be all the time as self leadership. Is this notion of focus and intention? Where is my
Yes.
focus? Where is the choice of
Yes.
my action? Where is the intention with the choice of my actions?
Yes.
And yeah, there is something nice there with this one. How can we
Yes.
use our thinking for that to help us with undoing these knee-jerk reactions?
I suppose it is like going back to those, like giving the pause, having the stepping back, having the questioning our, like what we're trying to achieve, like maybe reminding ourselves, what are we actually here to do? Like, what is this interaction going to, like, why do we want to have this interaction? And which then comes like to almost like ask ourselves these questions to be clear of our attention again, and re-choose again of what we want to achieve. So I think there's a lot of almost like just asking ourselves the questions of where we're going, why are we going there, like what do we expect to happen, and then maybe even challenging of what we think would might be happening in the terms of quite often we think if we do A, then B should happen. But actually, like, B isn't guaranteed. Nothing is guaranteed. Just because we make choice A, there is like still the rest of the alphabet and possible
And the
outcomes.
possible outcome.
Yeah.
So you point something here that is key, is that nothing is guaranteed. So yes, our world is inviting for polarity, but our world is also really inviting us for the zero risk perceptions. And who said zero risk perception would actually presuppose 100% guarantee on everything you do. And we know that's also something that is not possible. So it's about welcoming. So somewhere I would have this invitation to welcome back into our life the possibility of unplanned, of not knowing exactly where something goes, but what we want to build up is a capability to bounce on that. And
Yes.
maybe also the thinking. to bounce on that, the
Yes.
clear thinking to bounce on that. Yeah.
Yes, and I think that's again where, for me, self-leadership, like one version or one facet of self-leadership, is to find ways to be okay with the uncertainty, like find peace with the uncertainty, rather than trying to find a shortcut to a, like, okay, it needs to be that solution, therefore it is just that, just so that the decision is made. And it's often in these in-between moments, in these uncertain moments, where a lot happens, and we need to develop the strength or the okayness with this uncertainty, because as uncertainty unfolds, we get answers that we then can use to make a decision. But when we try to rush it, we rush it from a fear place, and we don't make the wisest choices, I think.
I love that invitation here you gave us, because welcoming uncertainty, I would translate it as welcoming opportunities. Because for me, it would be within the realm of the uncertainty that the opportunity also exists, that I may not see yet because no movement were created. But I take an action, I create a momentum, and I create a situation. There is uncertainty behind it, but there is also the opportunity coming my way. So I'm back with this mechanism that I need to, as a self-leadership skill, I need to keep an eye on my system, what's happening within my system.
Yes.
And I need to welcome this uncertainty. So probably I need to also build up trust in myself that I'm going to be fine with this uncertainty. So it could be something like this.
Yes.
There's another thing you said once we were talking, was the notion of clear thinking, to move away from oversimplifications in your thinking to complexification of your thinking. That famous ditching overthinking you often use. And in between, we have to find this space where, that you call the clear thinking, that I also find extremely interesting.
Yes. And I just had the thought as well to what you said before about when we talked about the opportunity or like uncertainty and being okay with that. There's also something that, like, if you think about the range of results that could come from any uncertainty or any decision we're making, any forward movement, there's 1/3 it could go even better than we think. 1/3 of it could be that's even worse than we think, like our worst fears are coming to fruition, or it stays actually okay. So 2/3 of every forward movement actually has a chance of being the same as it is or better, and only one chance, that 1/3 of it has actually our worst fears are coming to fruition. When we often think it is like, okay, 75% of it is this fear-based, the worst case scenario is likely to happen, is actually not true.
Yeah, so that's something also quite interesting here. And it could be linking back to the focus, because we have this, we know how the brain works. When we focus on things going the wrong way, we're more likely to go the wrong way because we create the safe premonitions. So if we focus on this going into the right location, then we're more likely that this goes into the right location. I'm a bit cautious of time because I'd like to make sure we bring one subject before we close. So let's move a bit to AI, because it would be impossible to talk right now about the future of work or the future of what we need 2025 without having a bit of wording about AI. This is a key things of the moment. I can see in January I go to learning and development conferences in Paris, and nearly every single session is about AI, how we use AI. So what about AI and self-leadership? How would you make the link if you were to?
So I think you nowadays, like, I meet a lot of people who either are saying, oh, I'm exploring it, it's amazing, or you hear all the fears, like we're all gonna lose our jobs, like like us as coaches, a lot of there are a lot of ways to use AI for coaching purposes, to be coached by AI. Exactly. So, and and that is almost like across the board. There's almost like no job that could be impacted. So I think it comes again back down to the having that pause, having that calm, not having a knee-jerk reaction to it, but thinking about, okay, so how can I like how can I use it, but also how could it be a positive movement for me, even if there are people now using coaches, using AI to be coached, but how can it be something that actually like over time will actually be a really positive influence. So it's and for the ones who have the fear-based thoughts, that will be harder to do. So there will be
Yeah.
a lot of like intentional thinking and finding reasons and finding ways of how that can be beneficial. What's
We
your
know
thought?
a lot, so many for that one. But I agree. I was just going to bounce on that knowledge we have that if we remain driven by fear, we're going to remain into a reactive mode more than proactive mode. And we know that this is never going to create the momentum that is going to be most interesting. The other thing that was coming up really was the mindset of curiosity. Because if we keep a mindset of curiosity, for me, that is becoming an essential skill of self leadership, is to have activated at every single moment that mindset of curiosity. Because then I see things from a different perspective and then I can position myself. But in everything you describe, what for me was making the difference is that active positioning. I position myself in, I'm using the tool. I position myself in looking for something interesting in the tool. So I move into that active movement. And self leadership is actually about taking that active stance. That I take ownership for what is happening in my life and around it. I don't take ownership for what my system is doing, but for how I can react to it. And then I can create something.
Yes.
So,
I love that. That is beautifully described. The taking the ownership for what you control. Yeah.
But for the last anecdote is I often label self-leadership as being the human innovation we need to be able to cope with technological innovations, because it gave us that the more people I see developing their self-leadership, the more it gave them that edge on being at peace with what is happening and looking at it from a perspective that we can play with it. So we go back with this idea of playing with something, curiosity. Okay, if you were, Carola, to wrap up some key points you'd like our listener to remember for 2025, what would you like them to take away today?
Yes, so I would take away that what you brought in, that emotions are just there to alert us of to look at something. So if we feel fear for what is coming like towards us, what's happening around us, is to notice that okay, we feel fear, and I choose not to act like on from that point of view, to step back, to calm down, to give myself like the space to think about it, and then to look with curiosity at, okay, so where can I go from here? How can I turn this into an opportunity?
Excellent. That's brilliant. Thank you for that. So, how we're going to do that. So, really, thank you for joining me today, Carola. It's a pleasure to have had that conversation, to bring a bit more information on self-leadership to our listeners. Now, before we wrap up the session, I'm going to have 3 announcements today. Our season 2 will start this late January 2025. I'm already starting to line up speaker for the season 2. 2 changes. We're going to have a slight change of name. We're going to simplify it. It's going to become Self-Leadership for Leaders. It's going to a slight change of time. We're going to move from 11:30 CET to 13:30 CET. That is slightly change of time to accommodate slightly better for people from US, the US audience, East Coast, that enjoy coming live. And the last big change, not a big change, last addition on this season, next season 2, we're going to have some live in French. Hey, so a bit more diversity, because a lot of my speakers come up to me saying, oh, I'd love to do that also in French. So we're also going to bring step leadership en français. Now, so that's going to be really fun. Last announcement, my next Step Leadership Growth program, they're starting this end of January. I'm going to have several programs this time, several cohorts, and I'm currently still taking subscriptions. So feel free to contact me to get some information. Now, thank you, listener, for being with us today. The one that we're live today, the one that will listen to the recording, and we see you in 2025. Ciao.
Bye bye.